As we all know, huge policy decisions happening right now here in Washington, from a false reform bill from Senator Dodd on Monday to a health care bill that expands coverage and offers partial reform but not comprehensive reform. We had a chance to talk to filmmaker Michael Moore at the scene of all the action. So let's start with the big health care vote this week. The Democrats are going to come out and tell us that they have pushed as hard as they could to help America and create health care for everybody.
When we have a bill, then we will let you know about the votes. But when we bring the bill to the floor, we will have the votes.
And yet there's not a public option. There's not really a reform of the insurance industry.
And there's not everybody. It's still not going to cover 12 to 15 million people. It's not health care reform.
What is it?
It's a couple of good ideas, like parents can keep their kids on their health plan until they're 26. It's a good idea. People who aren't covered, probably up to 30 million will be covered now. I mean, there are good things about it. It's the thing. Okay, we're working on it. Well,
he's with you.
Yeah, well, yeah.
That's
he just pointed out thousands are dying every year, and can I just say that this Democratic health care bill, the so-called stopping the pre-existing condition thing, doesn't start for adults until 2014. So you can add up how many tens of thousands are going to die in the next 4 years. This bill is a death sentence for them because a lot of them are not going to get the help that they need. To call this health care reform, it's not that. It's certainly not universal health care, which is what they all ran on.
How do you explain the transition from what was promised and what has resulted?
I would say a few $1 million every day, every week, being spent right here by these lobbyists. I think there's like somewhere between 1,200 and 1,900 lobbyists on the trying to prevent any banking regulation from taking place. They've spent now close to $400 million just in the last year or so on lobbying the Hill here, the banking industry. That's about $1 million per member of the House of Representatives. Anybody out there got $1 million, you can actually then have your equal say and be able to have that fight and maybe win. But if you don't have $1 million to give to each one of these guys or the lobbyists that are lobbying them, then you're screwed.
This legislation will create a strong and independent consumer protection watchdog.
Chris Dodd's bill here, the thing that he's introduced to so-called regulate the banks, it's so watered down, it's so not going to do the job, and I don't understand what part don't the Democrats get when they see the polls and the American people actually think less of Wall Street and the banks than they do of the members of Congress. What prohibits President Obama and these Democrats to just go on TV and say, that's it, banks, that's it, Wall Street, you caused a huge crash, you stole this money, we're coming after you. We're coming after you, and you're never going to do this to us again. Do you know how large the victory would be for the Democrats in November if they actually responded in that manner instead of the, well, we're gonna study the situation a little more, and maybe it's not so bad.
The point of this reform bill is not to punish the financial services industry.
We don't want to punish them? Are you me? We want to punish them. Everybody wants to punish them, and they want their money back, and they want their pensions back.
Yeah. We're here to get the money back for the American people.
I understand, sir, but you can't come in here.
Can you just take the bag?
No.
I try not to be filled with the sense of despair, but I would be less than honest if I didn't say, standing here on the lawn in front of this place, that you and I don't really own this anymore. That perhaps the jig is up, and that Wall Street and the banks and the Fortune 500 are the real owners of this lawn that we're on.
In your mind, would anything short of a constitutional amendment banning money from politics solve this country's problems?
No, until we remove money, and I mean remove it from politics, we're doomed. Once it's removed, though, now the playing field is leveled, because the richest 1%, who have 95% of the financial wealth in this country, they only get the same number of votes as you and I. One.
What do you view as the greatest thing that people who watch this show, the people that watch your movies, people who are in that 99%, what can they do? How can they empower themselves to even begin the process of getting the legislative change that's necessary to fix this democracy?
Everybody out there needs to tell anybody running for public office that I will not vote for you unless you support a constitutional amendment removing money from politics, number one. Number two, people who are watching this right now, some people need to think about running for office themselves. Why leave it to these guys? I mean, you've seen the quality. I mean the gene pool of politicians has been so depleted. It's like, you know, when you make a copy of a copy of a copy in the Xerox?
Yes.
By the 15th copy, it looks really...
a little pale.
That's what we've got going on.
Last question for you. You talk about how this type of change has to start on the local level, that you have to begin in the relationships between people in their communities, and then it has to come from that level up, that it's not going to start at the top of that, at the crown of that dome and work its way down. How do you envision that?
You know, it's not going to happen with just your show, my movies, a few people here who are trying to do some good. It's going to happen when there's a true uprising, of nonviolent, democratic uprising of people, and they're going to say, you know what? That's it. We've had it. That's enough. I'm not going to take this anymore.